Hello, it's Classy here back with another Tribes video, and today we will be doing a full showcase for a 5-star UR EMS Sasuke, and this is the current banner unit, and it was a very hype 1.5 anniversary unit, so I'm glad that Karingan was able to share clips of his Sasuke, because obviously he has a lot of resources, and he's powered him up to 87,000 power and level 110 at 5 stars. So that's more than enough to do this showcase with. And this is a T-type unit, so let's jump right into it. First things first, the 5-star art definitely looks way better now that I'm seeing the animated version than when I just saw the sneak peeks on Twitter. So the way that the purple light is animated and surrounding the character is really nicely done, and it puts a lot of emphasis into his Susanoo, so that's really cool to see, and everything is very detailed as well. I think it is somewhat similar to Tiitachi's art, but I like Tiitachi's a little bit more. I think that art had a little bit more detail and the colors were better there, but either way, for the stats, we see, since this is a T unit, his stats tend to be more balanced, but he does have high damage increase rate, guard rate, and critical rate. And the lowest stat that he has is critical suppression rate at 20%. So that's a little bit lackluster on the defense, and you might need some sort of protection, but he offers a lot of extra defense with his kit, so that covers some of the stats that are lacking. And on offense, he has a lot of great offensive stats already, and you'll see soon that his role is more suited for a buffer over a T nuker anyways, so it's always great to have the extra damage stats. Okay, and here's just a quick blurb about where we are in the story right now, which Sasuke this is, because there's so many of them. Now for the link bonuses. Since this is sort of one of the early Sasukes in the war arc is very long and a lot of characters have multiple modes. He is paired with Naruto KLM and Sakura. So that's the T Sakura that is free, and Naruto KLM obviously is one of the forms that he takes during the war. So that makes sense, and they are Team 7, so they got reunited. For the defense link, we have him, Jugo, and Orochimaru, so that makes sense also, because he did work with those characters earlier before coming here. Then the last one is Ito, Itachi, and Kabuto, so that makes sense as well, because he teamed up with his revived brother to take down Kabuto. And it's not exactly that version. It was more the Sage Kabuto, but I guess that's close enough. Maybe they're not making a Sage one, but I hope they do. So now let's hop into the kit. And before that, you can see the sprite also. I think the sprite looks really good for this Sasuke. Probably one of my favorite ones out of the bunch. Okay, so his first skill, aka Jutsu, single target damage, 50% chance to burn them. And that basically just does 17,000 damage at the start of each turn for 4 turns. Now, he'll deal extra damage when attacking first, 27%. Boosts all allies' damage increase rate by 18%. Critical damage increase rate by 20%. Damage reduction rate by 20%. And guard damage reduction rate by 24%. So again, just like how T units are more balanced and they provide a lot of support, his ability right here offers a lot of good damage on its own, and then offers a lot of important damage buffs for everybody on your team. So that's really great to see that it can affect so many of your units. And then he buffs the correct defensive stats for everybody on your team once again. And by correct, I mean some of the most optimal ones. So these are really important, like the damage increase rate and critical damage increase rate are very important stats, and the numbers that he boosts these by are pretty high. Now, specifically, if we check the main Discord, I think it states that these effects will last for 2 turns. So it's not permanent, but it's definitely still very good. Alright, now we're going to move on to skill 2. Does regular skill 2 damage, boosts all allies guard rate by 24% for the rest of the battle. So that's very good. Also, it complements his jutsu because the jutsu doesn't boost guard rate, it boosts guard damage reduction rate. So the amount of damage you reduce with your guard. Now your guard chance is also increased, and this is permanent, so this is very good. Now you might not use this skill 2 very often though, which you'll see later. As always, skills 3, 5, and 6 we're not going to go over because they're just stat buffs. And for skill 4, boosts all allies critical rate by 17% permanently, all allies guard rate by 17% permanently, all allies status effect suppression rate by 5.6% permanently. So the critical rate also synergizes with the critical damage increase rate that he provides from his jutsu, so that's really good synergy on one kit. Same thing for the guard rate, we already talked about that with the skill 2. And then status effect suppression rate is really good for PvP modes because everyone's using status effects, and this is kind of like a anti-meta tech that a lot of good units have. So it's really good to have this ability, as your team will be mostly safe from AoE stuns if you have enough. Like for example, Sasuke is really good for PvP, and he has a stat that is very similar to this. So that can really help with the AoE stunners, and single target stunners. They still have a chance to stun you, but definitely not as much if you have enough of these status effect suppression rate buffers. Some other ones are like Hidan, time travel, Sasuke. Okay, now for skill 4, just like other Uchiha clan units, they increase their own chakra, boost attack at the start of any turn after an enemy has been defeated. So this is just a stacking effect, and a lot of units have this, and it's very solid overall. Okay, so now we're heading on to the vitality. It's initial 5k chakra, so you'll have half your bar. You can jutsu on turn 2 as long as you have Sai. And that's good because nowadays in PvP modes, having the early jutsus is very important for getting the advantage right away. And then if you mess up your opponent's rotation somehow by stunning or killing, then that will give you a big advantage later. And for PvE modes, this is also really important, especially for the timed ones like FG and ATB, because you have limited time to deal as much damage as possible. So the earlier you can jutsu, the better. And that's pretty much it. So before we head on, let's talk about where he would be useful. I think this unit is good enough that he could be useful in every single mode. Now, more specifically, we've done the number rankings on the Naruto X Boruto Ninja Tribes database. So I've done the tier list videos very often, and I use this website a lot. So number rankings wise, we have him as a 9 for both PvP modes, Arena and Ninja World Tournament. Now, I've already explained a lot of the reasons why, but like a 1-sentence summary would be, he provides all of the best necessary buffs, and this includes offensive and defensive buffs, so it's just a very balanced buffer, and that's very important, and he has good numbers on those buffs. And he also has a good vitality. So that's pretty much it for PvP modes. Then for PvE modes, we have him as a 10 for Flashback Genealogy and ATB. And the reasoning is because what he does on his jutsu is just really powerful with critical damage increase rate and damage increase rate also. So those are really important stats. You might notice that some of the other support characters that people used to use also boosted these stats, so that's great. And then also he has the critical rate buffs as well, and he has a good vitality for these 2 timed modes, so that's why he gets a 10 in both of these categories. Now obviously the buffs are only for 2 turns, but in these timed modes where you keep your cell rotations steady and you don't have many turns anyways, the 2 turns is definitely significant enough. Now on to Abyss. He gets an 8 here. Remember, Abyss, you have to focus more on tanking as well. It's not just about raw damage here. You have a ton of time to spend, so you really want to survive and outlast your opponents. He can give some pretty strong buffs, but he is not a tank. He's not a D unit, so he might not be as tanky as some of the others, as we've seen with the stats. He does provide some good defensive buffs like damage reduction rate, guard damage reduction rate, and guard rate, but so do a lot of other D unit tanks, and they might be more effective. The cool thing about him is that he also has offensive buffs, unlike the tanks, but you'll have to make that decision on your own depending on which characters you have. So make sure to look at that Abyss tier list that I did very recently. I think it's my previous video. So now that we've gotten his full review out of the way, we can hop right into an arena match. This time we have him in Force. And his forward skill will trigger right away at the beginning of the battle because it's not using the active keywords. So he just applies these buffs right away and they're permanent, remember that. So that's good. So that's critical rate, guard rate, and status effect suppression rate. There's also another reason why it's good for PvPs because he doesn't need to be in first to give those status effect suppression rate buffs, and it's important to not get stunned early because people have like Kakashi and stuff like that. And yeah, I like this cell setup. We have Kid Naruto, Sai. That's a good combo and energy for defense. Then we have him with Santa and Sasori. So that's great because they can both protect Santa. And we know that Santa Naruto is one of the main arena carries. So that's why it's important to get him protected as well. And then Kakashi and KCM are great, as always. And Papa Sasuke also gives status effect suppression rate. And this is the D Papa Sasuke that I was talking about. So he's a tank with 5k initial. And he's very tanky as well as doing good damage. That's great. We were able to tank that pretty well, thanks to Kid Naruto. Now we have KCM Insta-Jutsu. Then Sasuke will have enough. Great damage. Now Kakashi finishes their KCM, which is really important. So he doesn't get the full heal back, and he doesn't give any more buffs. And now our KCM just tanks it thanks to himself and Papa Sasuke. Now we see that when we rotate it in, EMS doesn't have any more buffs to give since he's already given them out. But he does have his jutsu. So we'll review the animation first. I think that looks pretty solid, honestly. It's not like one of the best jutsu animations, but it looks good enough. We can see that he's giving the damage increase rate up, critical damage increase rate up, damage reduction rate up, guard damage reduction rate up to everyone. And his damage was pretty good. So he did like 75% the Hyudan, I think, on that single target. Now Santa Sasori nuke combo. Yep, there you go. That cell is completely done for. Now we have another energy cell. Great. So UR Heavy gets really strong. Now we have another Spirit Cell co-op this time with KCM's second jutsu, which does a lot. There you go, one-shot him. Yep, there's no way that Kieran is going to land any more AoE stunts at that point with all that status effect suppression rate buffs. Here we go. Now one more time for EMS. Yep, he did about 500,000 last time also. But obviously, as you could tell from the last time he attacked, Santa Naruto and Sasori did a ton of damage and they just wiped the whole cell after him. So that's where the buffs come in. And there you go. When Santa Naruto does like 1,000,000 or something AoE, that's really strong. Like 1,000,000 is already very good for a single target. Now he's just AoEing people for 1,000,000. Alright, let's just do this quickly. One more battle. So obviously we see the 4th skill trigger gets all those buffs right away to everybody. Okay, this time we have a skill 2 trigger. Oh, I didn't realize that was his normal attack. That's actually very cool. Need to see that again. So there you go, guard rate up permanently for everyone by like 24% or something. That's good. I like the animation for that also. Oh, something unfortunate happened. Our Santa Naruto was defeated early. Alright. Yeah. So basically what happened was nothing too eventful. We got 1 kill. So now it's tied up. Now we have EMS Jutsu again. Okay. Lots of buffs applied again. Damage wasn't so great on type up, but it's not really about the damage for this character. Nice. Sasori a ton of damage again. Now the Spirit and Energy Cell does a lot of damage also, so we finished off a ton of units. Computer being dumb, using side jutsu for some reason, which messes up our rotation. Yeah, that's really weird. Whatever. Oh yeah, he also has the Susanoo block animation, just like some of the other characters. I think Madara has a blue block animation that's just like that. Okay, now we have one more jutsu for real this time. Nice, that's a lot of damage. That's almost 1,000,000 this time on a same type. So I guess when he gets the crits off, and it's been a while, then his critical damage increase rate just makes his crit attack really strong. So that's basically the end of this battle. Hope you guys like this showcase. We're getting very close to 1K, so I would appreciate you sharing this with people who might like it, or who might like the channel. And thanks for watching.